Waycross presents an election forum for Issue 24, a proposed tax levy for the village of Greenhills. When voters go to the polls on November 6th, they will be asked to approve the following issue. Issue 24, an additional tax for the benefit of the village of Greenhills, County of Hamilton, Ohio, for the purpose of providing and maintaining motor vehicles, communications, other equipment, buildings, and sites for such buildings used directly in the operation of a police department, for the payment of salaries of permanent or part-time police, communications, or administrative personnel to operate the same, including the payment of any employer contributions required for such personnel under Section 145.48 or 742.33 of the Revised Code, or for the payment of other related costs, at a rate not exceeding 3 5/10 mils for each $1 of valuation, which amounts to 35 cents for each $100 of valuation for a continuing period of time commencing in 2018, first due in calendar year 2019.
My name is Dana Gagnon, and I'm the moderator and host for this evening's event. I'm very fortunate to have with me Mr. Glenn Dries, one of the Village of Greenhills council members. Thank you so much for joining us.
We'll have an email address for viewers who are watching us live on October 3rd. We'll do that in just a little bit. You'll see that come on the screen, and if you see that, you're welcome to send us your questions via email. But before we post that, I'd like to take a minute and give Mr. Dries a chance for a 2-minute opening statement to tell us exactly what Issue 24 means to the Village of Greenhills.
Thanks, Dana. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of the village and our police force. Why we're asking people to vote yes on Issue 24 is really 5 reasons. Our police department has been underpaid as compared to other police departments in Hamilton County that are similar. For example, a starting officer in Greenhills makes $41,683 a year. If they were to start in Gulf Manor, they'd make $48,000. If they started in Laughlin, they'd make $44,990. If they started in Glendale, they'd make almost $10,000 more. In Woodlawn, almost $12,000 more. In Newtown, they would make $14,000 more. In Fairfax, they would make almost $22,000 more. And what has happened is we continue to have turnover, especially with our younger officers, where they come to Greenhills, they learn to be a police officer. We pay for their initial training, uniforms, bulletproof vests, all the things that it takes to put an officer into the field. And the cost just to train a police officer for the Village of Greenhills is a little more than a $15,000 investment. And we're turning these people over. In fact, in 2013, we had 14 officers, and 7 of them have left in the last 5 years. And it wasn't because they were dissatisfied with where they worked, they weren't dissatisfied with supervision, but a lot of them are younger people, they have families that they're trying to provide for, and they had opportunities to make significantly more money. So a part of this is to just provide comparable, competitive salaries to departments that are similar in our size. Second reason is to keep trained officers who know Greenhills and its residents. We've looked at potentially using Hamilton County sheriffs. We found them to be more expensive than what we have currently, and also we would never have the community policing that we have now. If you get stopped for speeding, or if you make a call because you need police assistance, or you have somebody checking on your home, you might know that it's Andy, or you might know that it's Tony, or you might know that it's Ann, or Zach, or Eric, because our residents are known to our police officers, and that's important, especially for older residents. The third reason is to provide the necessary equipment and training for our officers. I regularly ask the chief, is our training adequate for our officers? Is there any training that you need? Because as an elected official who's responsible for our budget, but also public safety, I don't ever want to have to receive a phone call that something happened to one of our officers and their training failed them or their training was inadequate. So we want to make sure that we provide the best training. You know, I don't work in a line of business where if I make a mistake, somebody's going to the hospital, somebody could be killed. If I make a mistake, somebody writes a check and somebody gets chewed out and we move on. But these people are doing something that involves life-threatening situations. And so how can we as elected officials or citizens deny them the training that they need? So we want to make sure they have the right training. The fourth thing is to properly and safely maintain our patrol cruisers. We have 4 cruisers. We need to, and a patrol cruiser properly outfitted with lights and all the things that they need to do their job effectively is about a $40,000 number. And we keep a patrol car 8 years. So that means we're replacing a car every other year. So this year, maybe we don't buy a police car, but we've got to put $20,000 aside. So next year when we are replacing one, we have 20 from this year and 20 from that year. And if we get behind on that, and we did several years ago when we were in a budget crunch, it is a hard hole to dig out. So we want to make sure that we properly and safely maintain our patrol cruisers. And then last, to support a team of accredited professionals. In Greenhills, we are fortunate to have a CALEA accredited police department. And CALEA is a third-party organization. It's a law enforcement professional organization. They come in every other year and they audit our police department. They audit their procedures. They audit what they are doing. They have a public meeting and ask citizens about how they're performing. And it is not a rubber stamp. It is a difficult thing to attain. We work hard at it. Our police department works hard at it. And it is fantastic for our community for a couple of reasons. Being on council is not a full-time job for me. I'm not a law enforcement professional. And to know that the most important thing that local government does for our community is audited by somebody else and a third party, and they come from other parts of the country. I think last time we had somebody from Missouri that led the team of evaluators, and they put our people through the paces. There's no sugarcoating of anything. If there's a problem, they dig into it. They help us with corrective things. And so we want to make sure that we continue to do that, because if you have a community that is unsafe or perceived to be unsafe, it will affect property values, it'll affect family, it'll affect businesses that want to move there. So we think it's very important.
Excellent. Now you are watching an election forum on Waycross Community Media. We're discussing issue 24 that will be on your ballot in November. It's a levy for the Village of Greenhills. If you are watching this program live on October 3rd, you can email in any questions you have to the address that's going to show up on the bottom of your screen, and I will be able to get those right here in the studio during this program. I want to draw attention to some of that, the accreditation, the third party, the safety issues, because when people think of that kind of level of police department, a lot of people think of a metropolitan, larger police department.
Sure.
But Village of Greenhills police officers have a lot of the same dangers. They have really all of the same dangers, and they're dealing with all of the same issues, and so they need that level of professionalism.
Absolutely. You know, I think about my job, and is it harder today than it was 5 years ago? And I would say yes. And I think about police officers, and quite frankly, some of the demands on police officers today, as compared to even 5 years ago or 10 years ago, is significantly elevated. For example, in Hamilton County, we have a drug problem, and it is not just one small community. 35,000 cars go up and down Winton Road, which divides the Green Hills. And our police officers are responding to drug overdoses. The single most reported incident in 2017 was drug and narcotic violations, and that would not have been the case 5 or even 10 years ago. So, they are put in very dangerous positions. And I think about when I was a kid or a young man, when I think about police officers, there were always 2 police officers in a car. And that day has come and gone. And there are some technology things that they can do to help them, but they're out there on an island a little bit. And so this is a dangerous job. And we ask them to do an awful lot for our community to perform the law enforcement activities that are required of the job.
How does, as people may ask the question about the option of, can we subcontract to Hamilton County police officers? How does having local officers that know the residents help with things like drug situations?
That's an interesting question. In my role on council, I do a few things, and every council member serves on 2 committees. One, they chair a committee, and then they sit on another committee. I chair finance and audit, and I sit on public safety. And so in our public safety meetings, I will often, we've had conversations about drugs and the opioid epidemic and what we're doing as a community. And in a recent conversation with the chief, I asked him about Narcan, and I asked him how much we were using, and it is a little staggering. And he told me that that there are people that they've treated with Narcan multiple times. Well, when the police officers know the people in our community, we just get a better result from that policing because they know the people. They know that certain houses, maybe somebody's gone for a while, and so they're keeping a closer eye on that house. Or they know that there's been domestic violence in the past at a particular residence, and so when they get a call for that address, they're already aware of some of the history. And so I think that's really valuable for our police officers. And it also allows them to do some things that maybe we wouldn't be able to do. For example, our police department does a bike safety thing, and they hand out helmets to anybody that needs them. And so if there's extra helmets and they see kids riding with no helmets, they can pass them out, and they can develop some relationships with people in the community. They also do coffee with a cop a couple times a year, so people can get to know them. They can feel comfortable talking to police officers. Our chief has participated in managers' park talks this summer. So it gives an opportunity for our police officers to know our community, and it also gives our community a chance to know our police officers.
That's one of the key things I see when I look at a community that's a small historic community like Green Hills, having their own local police force, to have that connection. And those are some, I feel like that residents don't see, if they're fortunate, they don't see the daily work of the police department. And are there other ways that residents can keep their eyes open and see places that their police officers are doing work in Green Hills?
Yeah, we've had several things that they've done. They've had a citizens training where
Excellent.
Citizens can learn what it's like to be a police officer, go to the range with them, and that's been very successful. Sometimes our police do more than just what we consider traditional police work. Somebody breaks down and they don't have money to get food or whatever, and we've had citizens, because they've gone through the Citizens Police Academy, understand all the things that they do. And we've actually had a significant number of citizens say, I'd like to donate money cards or cash or whatever, so when those things happen, we can provide for people. So just having community involvement and community learning and knowing about what our police do is helpful.
That's a lot more connected picture than what most people think of as a police department interacting with the community. And I think that's important because voters will want to know, is this an everyday part of my community that I'm looking at? So we're looking at a levy and people have cost questions.
Absolutely.
What is the cost that the mythical $100,000 home would see from this levy?
It's $10.20 a month.
Okay.
So I tell people it's $10 a month.
Okay.
For your mythical $100,000 home.
Which isn't really mythical in Greenhills, I don't think.
No, it's not mythical.
No.
In 2018, just to run our police department, which is 10 full-time and 1 part-time police officer, it was about $123,000 to run the police department. And in 2018, that cost will go up to about $856,000. So it's the largest single budget item for us. But if I think back about what are the essentials of local government, what is local government charged with doing for its citizens, the single most important thing in my mind is public safety. So that's police protection, fire protection, and I got to tell you, we have an all-volunteer fire department that is second to none. People say is it a professional department? Professional doesn't mean whether they're paid or not paid. It speaks to the quality, and they are a very professional fire department. And the fire department also provides emergency medical services. So I clump those three things together and say that that's public safety. And that's our biggest budget item, but it's also our highest priority as a community.
If you are watching this right now, you are watching the Election Forum on Waycross Community Media. We're discussing issue 24. Will be on our ballot in November. It's a levy for the Village of Greenhills. If you're watching this live, you may email in any questions you have while we are in the studio here, and I will be able to take a look and ask them right now. So feel free. The address is on the bottom of your screen. Now, the question that I have to ask is,
Sure.
What if the levy doesn't pass? What will citizens in Greenhills see? Will things change? What will not happen?
I don't vote for all 6 people on council, but I will tell you this. If this is a priority and this is our highest priority, it needs to be funded first. And I don't want to throw threats out like we're closing the pool, or we won't have spoils fields anymore, or we won't have Harvest Fest or Light Up Greenhills or the golf course or anything. But we will have to make cuts in things that are not the absolute essentials of public government. And you can provide the essentials and have a community that survives, but unless you have some other things, some other amenities, you're not going to draw people there. I've always said that I want Greenhills to be a great place that you can live as a young adult, a great place to live as a family if you choose to have a family and raise a family there, and a great place to live in the last years of your life. And so we need a safe community for that, but we also need some other amenities. And so the pressure mounts on those other amenities because we will have a functioning and good police department.
When the police department deals with staff changes as turnover occurs because of the salary, which you had talked about, have you seen them have to pull officers from places they should be, or what are the consequences you see there?
Yeah, I think there are 2 things that are the most obvious to me. The first is usually when we have a new officer, they've had some basic training that they go through, but they need to be trained in our policies, our procedures. They need to learn our streets. They need to learn the other officers that they work with, the specific procedures for radio communication, and all those types of things. So that means that we have to take a field training officer and have them ride with that person, do all those things. So there's a commitment of time to train somebody. We just don't give them the keys and a gun and say, go after it, which is good.
That's good news. Yes, we like to hear that.
The other thing is when we are fully staffed, we have someone working that can be assigned to what we call DART, and that's the Drug Abuse Reduction Task Force. And this group investigates drug complaints to target the ever-growing problem of drugs in our community. And we've had people work undercover and assigned to DART, and then we had to pull somebody out to fill in for a vacancy that we had. And the simple truth is that Greenhills is not going to solve the opioid problem in Hamilton County or in the greater Cincinnati area. But if we make it a place where it's convenient for people to buy and sell drugs, then they will do it in Greenhills. And I have a high level of commitment to make sure that it is an inconvenient place to do that.
Now, for those of you who are watching, there was no registered opposition for this issue. We wanted to host this forum so the public could be informed about things that will be on their ballot. I want to take a moment to give you a chance to, is there one closing thing you would like to leave voters with as they get ready to go to the polls?
How about 3?
Okay, I'll give you 3.
Thank you, Dana. Our police department in this little town of 1,600 front doors and 3,600 people, our little police department is now handling over 1,000 calls for service each year. And when I leave here and I go home tonight, I don't know whether I'm going to dial 911 because I need them. But if I do, I want to make sure that I have a fully trained police officer that has the right equipment, the right communications, the right backup if they need it. And every other resident that lives in Greenhills, I believe, wants the same thing. And the only way that we can be assured of that is passage of this levy and financially supporting our police department. The second thing, I want to share just a brief story. It's when I sit and I listen to the police chief ask for things, I trust them, but it was good last year. I went out and rode with one of their police officers for an evening, and to be in pursuit of a vehicle, to hear the things that happen, to know that when he steps out of the car, he doesn't know what he's walking up to or she's walking up to. And I think we deserve, that our officers deserve to be fairly compensated, and we're just not fairly compensating them right now, and we need to do that. And then the last thing is if we don't fairly compensate them, we will continue to have the turnover that we do. And we are there's somewhere around 52 law enforcement agencies, and I think we're 50th or 51st in pay, and we can do better than that.
Well, I want to thank you, Mr. Dries, for coming in and helping us understand this issue. Now I want to thank all of you who are watching as well. We have done our part here in the studio, and now it's your turn to do yours. You can find more information about this and other issues that will be on your ballot in November by watching Waycross Election Forums and by also going to the Hamilton County Board of Elections website, which is votehamiltoncounty.org. Now, the last day you can register to vote is October 9th. Early voting begins October 10th. And Election Day, of course, is November 6th. Polls will open that day at 6:30 in the morning, and they will stay open until 7:30 in the evening. Now, we've given you the information. The rest is up to you. Waycross takes no positions on candidates or issues. We conduct these forums so that our viewers may be better informed voters for the November 6th election.